Welcome, everybody. I'm Ross Benjamin of the Winner's Circle, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Chip Chirimbus, Las Vegas professional sports handicapper, past winner of the is it the Hilton Super Contest, Chip, that
Yeah,
you won back in the day?
yeah, that's what it was back in the day.
Yeah. So, hey, we got a celebrity on our hands. Chip also, hey, he played a couple small cameo roles in some films. He was in Casino.
Yep.
We were just talking about that off air. There was another film you were in as well, right?
Well, I was in 3 Days of the Condor with Robert Redford, and also was a feature principal part in Unsolved Mysteries on a bank robbery that came out in Las Vegas. It was
Wow. Yeah.
great experiences. Great experiences.
Well-rounded guy, sports handicapper, former teacher, master's degree, and former Hilton Super Contest winner, Chip Chirimbus. Anyway,
Yep.
you're viewing us right now on the OSGA YouTube channel, folks, and we would certainly appreciate it. Me and Chip and the owner of OSGA, Jim Quinn, if you would subscribe to our channel. It's just a way of showing some loyalty to the work we put out here. Cost you absolutely nothing. And matter of fact, once you subscribe, if you hit that bell, there's an icon that looks like a bell. It's a notification button, and what that will enable you to do is anytime we publish any sports betting videos on this channel, including this show, The Winner's Circle, you'll be notified immediately. And if you can't get there right away, all our shows are on archive right there at the OSGA YouTube channel. Don't forget, folks, if you like our video, give us a like. It really goes a long way in keeping our chin up, because we're putting a lot of work and effort into the show, and we're trying to make you happy. And I'm sure you would have no trouble making us happy, because it doesn't take us much. We're getting older. You know, little things make us happy. Give us a like. Anyway, Chipper, pretty soon the new website goes up, chipwinners.com.
I'm really excited about it, Ross, and you've been a great help to me. And you can get there by going either to the A Play, which is how I started out in business, or chipwins.com. You'll end up at the same site, and we're loaded with winners.
All right, so today is Tuesday, and so to bring everybody up to speed who hasn't been viewing from the start of the show last week, Tuesday we're going to be covering the NFL. We're going to be looking back at some games that took place last week. We're also going to be looking ahead at some early point spreads and totals in the NFL for week 10. And there was plenty of interesting finishes last week. But let's take a look at some games that are coming up. Thursday, Chip, we don't ordinarily do this, but Indianapolis and Tennessee, we're going to cover the Thursday game here because it's got major implications in terms of the AFC South race. These two are definitely the front runners to win the division. Both are currently, I think Tennessee is 6-2 and Indy is 5-3, if I'm not mistaken. So Tennessee holds a slim one-game lead. You know, Tennessee coming off that win last week against the Bears, Chipper, but they weren't really impressive in doing so. Again, they took advantage of some Chicago turnovers, and the Bears held them to less than 300 yards of total offense. And the Tennessee defense continues to bail themselves out by forcing turnovers, but they're still giving up a lot of yards per game. And when you give up 370 plus against the Bears offense, I think that's cause for concern.
Well, you know, this Tennessee team, after 5 weeks, we thought they were the nuts. We thought they were on their road, going to be hosting the playoffs and going to the Super Bowl. But they haven't played well, like you've said, in recent games. We had against them against Cincinnati 2 weeks ago. They were fairly lucky to get by with the Bears here. They didn't cover that number. We had talked about, about how high it was, and they did cover that number.
I think they did by a half a point.
Right. And but I'm wondering if they've fallen off a little bit. You know, teams lose their edge, and they're sitting there, and they have the momentum, and it could be a number of things. It could be concern about the virus or just their overall play, and maybe coaching. Maybe they got off to a fast start because one reason or another. But they just don't look the same now. And, you know, Ross, I had Indianapolis on Sunday against the Colts, and it certainly didn't make it. And even though they outgained the Ravens, the Colts over the Ravens, and they outgained the Ravens by over 150 yards, whatever it was, sort of like an opposite, a flip side of what happened to us the week before against the Steelers.
Yeah.
When the Baltimore had all the yardage and Steelers got all the points.
Yeah.
So this one on Thursday night, I think is going to be a great matchup. You said two division leaders going head to head. We're still waiting for Indianapolis's Rivers to show himself, but Ross, there seems to be something going on in the NFL, and it's aging quarterbacks, and it's not just Breeze and Brady anymore. We've got Rivers in there, and it just seems like the age has started to catch up with these football players.
Yeah, you know what? This is the kind of game that Rivers, I could see him having a big game because Tennessee's pass defense has been very vulnerable. On the opposite side of the spectrum, Chip, as we both know, Rivers has been prone to throwing a lot of interceptions as well. I mean, last year he had 20 touchdown passes against 21 interceptions. I, for one, think he hasn't played that bad this year. And as far as Tennessee goes, my take on them is teams are starting to get the book on them. If you can stack the box and force Ryan Tannehill to beat you with his arm, because their wide receiver core is not amongst the finest in football. It's probably middle of the road at best, Chip. And if you could stop the run and you don't have to become one-dimensional offensively against Tennessee, you can give them problems.
And you mentioned about Tannehill, 10 for 21. And, boy, he seems like everyone's ranting and raving how he was an all-pro. Now, when they don't have the running game in gear, it's a whole different story because if they stop the running game, Tannehill hasn't performed as well. And every quarterback would love to have a running game to support them without question. But I think maybe they jumped the gun a little bit too soon on indoctrinating this guy into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And, I mean, they stopped Derrick Henry last week, the Bears, that is. And, again, a sign of a great quarterback to me, a winning quarterback, is a guy, when your running game's not working, when you can't use play action pass as effectively if your running game's not working. And if you get behind in a game, you could still excel. Now, the probability of that happening diminishes a bit without the running game, but there's still quarterbacks out there that find a way. And right now, Ryan Tannehill has to prove to me he can find a way. This opened at 1, Chip. It's up to -2 now in favor of Tennessee. The total's 48.5. Just an early thought on the point spread. I know we're seeing a lot of money come in on Tennessee early on.
Well, I think we should be considering that number. I'm surprised it's not at least 3. I mean, we've got a division leader at home, and they're playing a team that really faltered last week. The Colts, they just gave the game away a number of times, fumbling the ball and not making key plays when they could have. And now they come in here, and like you said, they opened up under a 3-point underdog. It really makes me think that maybe the Titans are not in sync as they have been before, and probably the Colts have to rally around the lamppost, so to speak, and get it together. I think the number is very shy, and I'm very suspect of it.
Yep, and we'll touch upon that. We won't touch upon that later in the week. So that's our last take on that game. And if you want our selections on that game, you could either go to my website, rbwins.com, or if Chip gets his site up by then, which I hope he does, it would be chipwins.com. Or you can call Chip direct. Chip, give the folks your phone number if they want to contact.
Thank you, Ross. By the way, the site should be up before the end of the week without any question. You can get a hold of me directly at 702-931-CHIP. That's 702-931-2447. We'll be able to work out some sort of deal over the weekend without question and come up with some big winners. Last weekend, Ross, we were disappointed.
Yep.
And, but coming back, bounce back. We had the Monday night winner, and that always soothes the pain. So ready to go.
Yeah, home dogs of 10 or more this year, 4-0-1 against the spread. I got the Jets at 10 last night. I know they did go to 9. I also mentioned the Chipper last week that, and I didn't pull the trigger again, Chip.
No, we both passed.
Dallas against Pittsburgh, 14-point underdog at home, and the Cowboys, quite frankly, could have won that game outright. But in any event, just something to keep an eye on going forward. Home underdogs of 10 or greater, and specifically within the parameter of 10 to 14, have done extremely well against the point spread in recent years.
Ross, I think that Dallas was probably the best bet of the entire weekend last week. Like you said, they had a chance to win the game. It was never in doubt, and they played great football. And we just, like you said, sometimes you just can't pull the trigger. You couldn't
Yeah.
squeeze it.
I
And
mean,
that's what happened there after getting beat by Dallas the week before by a quarterback just dropping the ball 2 times and pick sixes and going the other way. It takes a lot of nerve to come back with them. And, you know, Ross, one of the things in this business, we hate to have a customer think that we're chasing a team. You know, that we're not, that it doesn't really fit our criteria, that we're just trying to get back or get even because of a loss. And that's how I sort of felt about that game if I came back with Dallas. So I didn't use that. I don't think you used it either, but that was probably the best play on the board, really.
I used it on a show as a free pick, the show that we do together. And yeah, but you know, hindsight's always 20/20. But if you look in hindsight, Pittsburgh was coming off 2 physical games against Tennessee and Baltimore, 2 of the elite teams in the AFC. And here they come in against a Dallas team that's down to their 3rd string quarterback, is 2-6 on the year. So, you know, we could always second guess ourselves till the cows come home. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. I mentioned this to you on Monday when we talked on the phone. This line jumped right out at me, Chip. I'm looking at right now, Pittsburgh's as low as -7. They opened at 8. I'm seeing 7 and 7.5 now out there, 1-8. But in any event, you got a Pittsburgh team 8-0 right now, taking on a Cincinnati Bengals team, which is much improved. 2-5-1 on the year. Played. You can make a case they're better than the record indicates. And Joe Burrow, really good quarterback, but. You know, this is the kind of matchup against Pittsburgh on the road with that defense that I might foresee Burrow struggling a little bit, you know, and I'm starting to see public action go to Cincinnati where they're starting to like this team a little too much. And I think Pittsburgh might be undervalued here, especially in light of the fact that they really got lucky last week against a team they're far superior in. The team that we just mentioned, the Dallas Cowboys. Your early thoughts here, Chipper?
Well, every time I look at a Steeler game when they're playing a team from Ohio, be it Cincinnati or Cleveland, they just seem to rise to the occasion. The Steelers I'm talking about, they seem to have dominated these teams. I know they've dominated Cleveland, maybe not quite as against the point spread as I imagine or as I foresee it in my head, but Cincinnati's been a great take all year. Their winning record isn't good unless you're playing them against the points. And as far as we're concerned, that's what we want.
Yeah.
So I can understand them gravitating toward the Bengals here. Joe Burrow has really shown that he is an NFL quarterback and he is worthy of the #1 pick. And so is Herbert, by the way. But, you know, like I said, this matchup, Pittsburgh is shy, 7 points. Maybe, you know, maybe they're beat up or are just looking to take a breath after 3 games that they just had. They came from behind. I know they were put to the task against Dallas. And, you know, maybe in the first half they sleptwalked through that game. And then they realized they had to get it in gear. So, but like I said, whenever they play teams from Ohio, they always seem to be ready.
Yeah, Tennessee, Baltimore, and last week Dallas. They're coming off 3 straight road games, Chip, which is an oddity in the NFL, but welcome to 2020. Speaking of Justin Herbert, a very interesting, intriguing matchup, I think, anyway, is the LA Chargers at the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. Needless to say, the Dolphins are on quite the run right now, winning and covering each of their last 4 games. While the LA Chargers might be the best 2-6 team in football in a long time, and I say that because they've now lost 6 games, all by 7 points or fewer. And the last 2 games came right down to the wire. They lost one with no time left to play in Denver in a game they squandered a 21-point lead. And then last week, 2 heartbreaking plays at the end of the game there. One where Mike Williams didn't come down with a reception he normally makes, and the other one where the reception was made, but instant replay review overturned the call on the field with no time left, and they lose again. How many times could you come back from heartbreak? And is this starting to become a team that maybe just can't get over the hump? I know one thing, Justin Herbert is the #1 draft choice, and Justin Herbert is the real deal. And they still have very good receivers in Williams and Keenan Allen and a nice tight end in Hunter Henry. Their defense seems to be the problem now. How seriously do we take Miami at this point, Chip? They've now been
Well,
outgained by over 100 yards in each of their last 2 wins.
Well, Miami reminds me of going to an amusement park, and when you have the hall of mirrors, and you walk in, and you don't know where you're going. I think that's what they're doing on defense, because it just seems like whenever they're out there on defense, particularly, other teams are struggling and making mistakes and turning the ball over. And Miami's been capitalizing. The Dolphins been capitalizing with pick sixes and fumble returns and punt returns. Their special teams have been outrageous. Tua has been mediocre at best, shall we say, for them so far. And, he was much improved the game 2 last week. But, the Chargers, like we said about them, they're playing everyone close. They're playing everyone tough. And it just seems like they can't get over the hump for one reason or another. The year before, last year, we realized the Chargers had a terrible season. And the year before that, they were right on the cusp. And everyone thought they were going to break out and be great. And I think it was Melvin Gordon held out last year, destroyed their running game. And, of course, Rivers threw those 21 picks you mentioned. And now it looks like they're trying to rebuild from the beginning, from within. And they got a good start with Herbert, but they have to be able to stop somebody when it counts, Ross. I mean, and, they muffed a punt and with 2 minutes to go, which gave the Raiders the 5-point lead or 5-point lead. And if they didn't, they would have come down and kicked the field goal, and that point about dropping the passes in the end zone or the official making a call would have been moot. But you can't make those kind of errors in the NFL. You can't give the opposition the ball on the 18-yard line with 2 minutes to go because you fumbled or muffed the punt. And that's what happens. And bad teams are teams that don't win. These are the type of things that plague them continuously, over and over and over again.
Good teams find a way to win. Bad teams find a way to lose. And I'm not willing to just go out on a limb and say this team is a bad team, but they are making mistakes. They're shooting themselves in the foot, and they're not making it easy on themselves. Not only 6 losses by 7 points or fewer, Chip, but I remember at least 4 situations where they blew double-digit leads in those losses. So you can't continue to do that. But again, I look at this line, Chip. You got a red-hot Miami team. -2.5 right now. The opening line was 3. They're down to 2.5 against a Chargers team that's 2-6. And that really jumped out at me, because Miami riding a ton of momentum right now and the Chargers finding ways to lose, yet the bookmakers got them a favorite of less than a field goal. Your thoughts just on the line in general?
Very short. Again, like that Thursday night game. Like you said, Miami has the winning record, and the Chargers just don't seem to be able to come through with the play that they need to win a game. And yet they're telling you, my Chargers have a real legitimate chance to win this game. I mean, if the Miami's only be 1.5, 2 points, they're telling you can take this game on the money line, but which I really don't recommend. I always like taking the points for us rather than the money line. That's gambling. We're not gamblers.
Well,
anyway,
I think you're also a proponent of if it's -1 or -1.5, use the money line. Why?
Yes, if I was to lay it, I would lay it on anything under 2 or under. If we lay $1.25 in baseball, $1.30, and think
without hesitation,
right. In football, all of a sudden it bothers us. And I understand in baseball, I don't like going to the $1.40 or something like that. I wouldn't do that in a football game because the points are the equalizer. But like you said, if they lay the money line here, it'd be worth your while. You'd hate to lay 1.5 or 2, and you win the game 21-20. So the best, whatever gives you the best chance to win on those low point spread games as favorites, I don't mind laying the money line at all.
Yeah, I like looking at money line betting angles too when it comes to these type of games where it's a team is a favorite of less than a field goal, because the chances of you just winning by 1 or 2 points are pretty slim. It happens, okay? It's happened over the last week, as a matter of fact. But, again, just food for thought. Chipper's got his theories. I got mine in terms of that. But both of us, at the end of the day, are trying to give you the best opportunity to win and beat a smart sports bettor. All right, let's look at a big NFC West matchup between the Seattle Seahawks, coming off a loss last week at Buffalo, and the LA Rams, coming off a bye week in their last game. Again, they outgained the Miami Dolphins 471-145, and still lost that game 28-17 thanks to 4 turnovers. a punt return for a touchdown, a fumble return for a touchdown. Now they're home. They opened up as a 1-point favorite. They're up to 2. The total in this game has risen from 53 to 55, 53 and a half to 55 and a half. No shock there because Seattle seems to be involved in high-scoring games all the time. Seattle's defense, though, Chip, I just can't get beyond that. I mean, when you compare to these teams' defenses, it's hands down edge to the Rams. And then you go offensively, yeah, maybe a slight edge to Seattle in that department, but the Rams ain't too bad in offense. Especially when Jared Goff gets a hot hand. I can't imagine he's not going to have a big game here against a porous Seattle secondary.
We were both very happy last week. We finally got past this Russell Wilson with Buffalo, and you say it every single week, and it can't be more prophetic about the passing game, the passing defense. Buffalo ran for 55 yards, and they still had 380 yards passing or thereabouts. And as a matter of fact, Seattle only ran for like 40 yards in that game as well.
Buffalo actually ran for 34 yards in that game, but they only, I think they had like 8 rush attempts. So it shows you how teams are attacking Seattle.
And they should, because, and you want to talk about, this is an aside, I hate to get off the subject. Do you know that on Sunday or Monday night, whenever it was, Sunday night, Tampa Bay had 5 running attempts?
Yeah.
5 on the entire game? This is an NFL game, and 4 of them, one of them was by a quarterback. So,
and it's not like they were having success passing the ball either.
I know, and I think they just left their game plan after they got down 14-0. And Ross, 14-0 in the NFL, plenty of teams come back from that. It's there isn't too many. I just think Arians is sitting there blaming Brady for everything, and he didn't have his best day. But you have to be able to adjust and just put one drive together if you can. Yeah. Now, getting back to this Seattle team and the Rams. I think the Rams are in a good spot here right now. I was surprised they came up with such a small favorite. They're giving Seattle so much respect because of Russell Wilson.
Too much, I think.
Well, and he is throwing for 380 yards every game virtually, but this Ram defense is a little bit tougher, and I don't expect them to make the kind of major flaws and errors they did against the Dolphins, which they've had 2 weeks to lick their wounds, 2 weeks to savor over and pound themselves about how they just gave that game away to the Dolphins. And they were never in it. They were never in it, and they outgained them by 150 yards, Ross, or whatever. This might be a play for the Rams, but we always have to be suspect when Russell Wilson's on the other side of the line.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo might have laid down a blueprint on how to play Russell Wilson. They continually pressured him the whole game. He had 2 fumbles on sacks, and he also threw 2 interceptions, Chip. I mean, maybe that's the way to go. Look, he's going to beat us anyway on occasion. We might as well attack him and force him into mistakes and make his life a little bit more miserable, not let him just sit back and pick us apart. And the Rams certainly have that front to give him problems, in my estimation. I like the LA Rams front a lot better than I like the Buffalo Bills front. So watch out. You never know here. I mean, a Rams win would put them into a tie with Seattle at 6-3. And then if Arizona knocks off Buffalo, you're looking at a 3-way tie for first place in the NFC West. A pretty good division at that. All right, one more game we're going to touch upon, Chip.
Okay.
We're running against the clock here. The Tampa Bay Bucks, who you just mentioned, are going to Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers in an NFC South showdown. The Carolina Panthers, of course, have now lost 4 in a row. Tampa Bay, I'm scratching my head. I had to look. I missed the beginning of that game, and I'm looking at the score on my phone, and I saw 21-0 New Orleans, and I said, is this a misprint or what? And then I look at the stats the next day, and what jumped out is exactly what jumped out to you. 5 rushing attempts the whole game, 194 yards of total offense. Look, New Orleans defense might be underrated, but they're not that good. And total shock because by all indications, we both thought that Tampa Bay was really starting to gel, getting Antonio Brown now in the mix. Chris Godwin was coming back, but it didn't matter. And they get swept by New Orleans in that series. And Carolina, off a heartbreaking loss, they gave Kansas City all they can handle, Chipper. You know, Christian
Yep.
McCaffrey back from injury, had a big game, and you cashed in on that game, if I'm not mistaken, on the
Yes.
Carolina Panthers, which was a real good call. Right now, Chip, the line opened at 6.5. It's down to 4.5 as we speak. Your early thoughts on this line in this game?
Well, I'm not saying Tampa Bay peaked, but my first thoughts were Carolina under Matt Rule held Kansas City to around 50 yards rushing in that game. People don't quite realize. And they could have won that game because they really had the best of it over the Chiefs. But like we said, some teams know how to win and some teams just, falter at the end. Tampa Bay coming in here, just smaller favorite. I love Matt Rule at Carolina and coming from Baylor. And they were without McCaffrey. Now he's got back. I think the team, you said they've lost 4 in a row. I think they're really maybe looking to start to play a little bit better together. But, Tampa with this number makes me think that maybe there's more problems and issues down there than we think or we believe. They had no running game whatsoever. And Carolina stopped the Kansas City Chief running game. So if they do that again here, they could be a play. They could possibly even win this game. Now, this game's at Carolina. Am I correct?
Yes, it is. That's correct.
Yeah, well, so I don't know if those home cutout cardboard pieces are going to make much noise for him, but
you had an obsession with that. You had an obsession with that since this COVID-19 era.
Well, because I thought it was such a joke that they're piping in the crowd noise.
Oh, I get it.
And they've gotten better with it. They really have, because at first it was just one constant roar and murmur, and you never had a break. And I think I told you before, you've been to baseball games and football games, between innings and between at-bats and between plays, there's a lull in the crowd. It isn't a constant murmur or noise badgering your ears. But those cardboard cutouts are great support.
Anyway, an interesting matchup. We'll touch more upon that matchup on Friday's show. That's going to be our late edition of our NFL show. Coming up on Thursday will be our late edition of our college football show, which will tidy some plays up for you or games up for you in terms of the line movement. And it gave us a couple more days to digest the line movement between Monday and Thursday. We did our early college football show on Monday. We're going to take a break every Wednesday and then rejoin on Thursday and Friday, folks. So you could find us right here on the OSGA YouTube channel. To get my NFL selections and college football selections, you can get my website, rbwins.com. Right now, 29-18 since the first Monday night of the NFL season. Good for 62% in the NFL. Struggling a little bit in college, had a 2-2 week in college football. So going to bounce back, and you could find Chip at chipwins.com. And Chip, once again, real quickly, the phone number they could reach you at.
All right, the best way right now, reach me direct. I'm at 702-931-CHIP, 702-931-2447. At our first losing Saturday in 2 months, Ross, and looking to bounce back big time. But we did go into that week with 3 wins and 1 loss on those Wednesday, Thursday, Friday games, but that didn't help anyone on Saturday.
All right, so we're going to leave you with this. Good luck. God bless. I'm Ross Benjamin, and for Chip Chirimbus, until Thursday, we'll talk to you then.